I am delighted to have a beautiful, beautiful goddess here today with me, Nina Powell. She lives in New Zealand and she's doing work in empowering women to step into their passion, to step into their sensuality, their sexuality, and live the life of their wildest dreams. A friend of hers says that the saying, "Let me take you by the hand and lead you to a place beyond your wildest dreams." And so that was how a friend of hers described her. And that really sums up the work that she does. She's helping women really step into their power and be the sensual, sexual, beautiful, juicy goddesses that they are. I'm so excited to have you here with me today.
Thank you so much for what a wonderful welcome. And I am very excited to be with you here today. This beautiful conversation.
Wonderful, wonderful. You're such a beautiful, beautiful goddess. And just meeting you, I can see that you really embody that juiciness and that, that feminine power. And so my first question to you is, what does the goddess mean to you?
Yeah, this is a good question, because actually in my work, when I think of the goddess, I often use the word the divine, God, goddess, source. I'll use a lot of different words, and for me in particular, it's this experience that you can have through your sexuality of connecting to the divine, like literally going to the divine and having these most epic and beautiful experiences of connection in and through your own body. So when I think of the goddess, I think of it as within, and this experience that you have of the goddess cells or the divine cells humming and vibrating in your own body, and also then the oneness that you can experience through the expansion available through your body. And this body that we are in is this portal to the divine. It's I know before I experienced that, it was kind of things that you would hear, kind of myths and magic that other people talked about. And I knew I had this longing in me to somehow experience the sacred through my sexuality. And it was only through those experiences that you think are impossible. Like everyone thinks you're impossible, but they're not. They're completely possible. Through those experiences of the impossible being made possible, that I now know, I know of the divine in me, that I can go to the divine and the goddess and experience that in my own body. So I just want everyone to know that it's not impossible.
Yeah.
Like, not at all. Like really, really, everyone has the same bodies ultimately. So I think there's nothing else like it. It's like the most open experience of divinity you can have, and connection to all that is through eros and the body. It's like total surrender. Yeah.
Can you explain?
And I think about goddess in other ways, like the earth and there's other aspects, but in relation to my body and my passion, my work, that's my, yeah.
Can you explain what eros is a little bit more?
Yeah, eros. I think of eros as the feminine soul, really, in the body. So eros being the experience of your body as an alive, beating, throbbing, sensory body. And eros is this life force energy that is completely natural and is erotic, but it's so totally and utterly natural that it literally flows through everything. And in fact, if we were not conditioned to hold and tense our bodies, with every single breath, you would be feeling eros in your body, because when you breathe fully, you're massaging all of your sexual organs with every breath. So eros is just this completely natural aliveness that we often shut down. I almost think of like we kind of castrate it off. We're so afraid of eros that stories like it doesn't belong here, it doesn't belong there, it only belongs in the bedroom. And so we shut off our natural aliveness. And yeah, it's like natural nature. So eros is life force. Really, it's like the color in life force, you know, like you could have like a landscape and then you paint all these colors and you add a bit of twinkles and and it becomes I don't know, like you could lick at it, you know, those stickers that you had as a kid that smelt and tasted or something. Eros is adding all of the flavor and the depth to the landscape and your experience of life. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Wow. That's amazing. I love how you use the words throbbing and, you know, that very organic, natural kind of feeling. And I remember that in childbirth, you know, when I would contract and hold myself, it hurt a lot worse than when I was just able to surrender and feel that throbbing and that undulating. That was when it almost was orgasmic for me. And then I felt the connection to everything. And I think maybe that was eros.
Yeah, it does sound like an expression of eros. Yeah, full embodied living, full embodiment of throbbing and pulsing and being with the moment completely and utterly without this mind. Yeah,
I'll never forget that moment. We were in Seattle, Washington. I was in the back of my husband's Jag and my water broke in the back of his really nice car, but I was completely in an orgasmic state of being connected to the universe, the cosmos, and everything, and understanding what it was all about. And it was like, this moment. I think that's the connection. Hey.
Yeah, it's that. It is, isn't it? It's the ultimate orgasm, or the what is possible in our surrender in the female body. Yeah, beautiful. What an experience to have. And I love the contrast, you know, being in the normalcy of like the car, you know, and the nice car, and then the wild.
It was funny. It was funny because my husband was like, "Can you please make sure your water doesn't break in the back of my nice car?" I'm like, "I don't know, honey. I mean, if it, yeah." And then it did. So now it's a funny story that we tell, you know.
Yeah.
He laughs about it. It's all good, but
I love it. Yeah. I love it because it's, you know, we really don't have any control. We think we have control, don't we, over things.
Yeah.
And we try and control the body, and, you know, it's all happening regardless, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is a good segue to bring me to the next question is what does the feminine, the redemption of the feminine spirit mean to you? I know they're really
juicy. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of I suppose for me it's really connected to eros, but for me it's a really personal journey. When you say that, I think of a very personal journey of my own. If I showed you some photos of me about, I don't know, 9 years ago and earlier, I just looked so entirely different, because I had spent all my adult life really trying to shut down and keep myself safe in my feminine body. I'd had so much attention growing up. I think a lot of women experience that, you know, when you're young, and the excitement of a young, new kind of woman. I can understand why she gets so much attention, but it was pretty overwhelming to get that much attention. So not consciously, but I must have really shut myself down in different ways to keep myself safe. And, I danced quite stiffly. I used to go to a barber and get my hair cut. I bought clothes that were kind of stiff and hard fabrics, and I just didn't understand what the feminine was. And got to a point where I would see women when I would go out places, and I would feel this intense envy and longing. The word intense came out. Intense probably was the truth of it, but I wouldn't have acknowledged it as intense. I would have probably looked over the other side of the room and just seen this woman who seemed sensual and in her feminine, and she would also likely be getting a level of attention from attractive men that I, would have maybe liked to know that I was as valued as she was. And so there was a real lack of the feminine in my life, but I didn't really know how to bring it back. And I had all these so stereotypical ideas about what the feminine was, like long skirts and makeup, and I don't know, like something kind of floaty, like this sort of these ideas of what feminine had to look like. And then there was this moment, I was in a workshop, a sexuality workshop, and we'd worked through quite a lot of deep stuff in a practice before lunch, and we were in this dance music segment, and we were just supposed to just be dancing, and all I could feel in my body was anger, and I had no idea where it came from, and I was so uncomfortable. And I said to the teacher, I could feel this anger, and then he just looked at me with these sort of excited eyes of like, let it out. And I was like, whoa, okay. And I roared, and this anger came out of me, and my body just started moving and flowing. And this movement, this dance that came out of me was so foreign and yet so familiar and free. And I was in this body again. And literally from that moment forward, it was this reclaiming of the feminine for me. I could feel it. I could feel this freedom. And I started to get interested, and I realized I liked fabrics with beautiful texture, like silk and velvet. And I started to buy things based on how they felt. And then I got it. I was like, it's not about how it looks. It's about how it feels. It's about how it feels against your skin, and how it feels when you walk, and it brushes you or something. So I feel like the redemption of the feminine is, first of all, very much a personal journey of a reclaiming of the parts of you that have been shut down and are missing, but they are literally part of who you are. It's not an idea. It's not going to look like somebody else's. And then through that becomes a portal to more of your own power, and you standing into and stepping into your life fully and completely, and being the leader, choosing, deciding. Yeah. So yeah, redemption of the feminine. I hadn't really thought about it in those words, but I like it.
Yeah, I love your story of that anger being released too. Sometimes, I've noticed that with myself and some of my clients, that when there are these intense emotions sitting there, it's almost blocking the flow. So it feels like that was really your moment of release, so that you could let that Shakti flow through your body. Beautiful. Yeah,
like unblocked. And I'd never thought about myself as somebody who got angry. I even had a story, I'm not really an angry person. I don't really feel anger. I just get a little frustrated sometimes, So really unacknowledged feeling around different situations and experiences that I'd had. I must have been bottling them in and freezing up, armoring my body into this stiffer version that just moved in a different way. And now I've got my friends that have known me a long time, just, you know, they can, I guess they really see how different I look now. And it's pretty wild what unlocking your body can do for every aspect of you. Yeah.
Yeah. I watched a friend go through a huge transformation, and honestly, she looked like a completely different human being after. And it was really releasing those emotions. It was incredible. It was absolutely incredible how different, like a completely different person.
I can imagine because I see it when people work with me, and I do some body work, pelvic body work, which is really grounding and calls people back home, and they look completely different. Actually, that is when I often use the word the goddess arrives. I'm like, holy, the goddess has landed.
Wow.
We look really different. I think our faces change. I try and explain it from my rational mind, I guess, but really I think what it is it's energy. Something shifts in the energy, and so we are different. We receive differently, and I guess muscles soften in different places, and
I did
hold ourselves different.
I did a little experiment. This was a few years ago. I went on a body cleanse, and did a bunch of healing work. And I took close-up pictures of my eyes because I was really interested in iridology. And the color of my eyes changed as I was going through that process. They went from being quite hazel, more brown, into green and then blue. And it was really, really interesting. And I mean, that does happen. So the color of your eyes even change.
That is wild that they went from hazel, green, and blue. I didn't think that blue would ever show up with hazel and green and eyes like that.
Yeah.
Actually, other than my grandfather, who had one blue eye and one green eye. So people do have that.
My eyes are back to the more hazily because I'm not on the amazing diet that I was before. I've kind of slipped back into other patterns, being in Sweden with all the beautiful cinnamon rolls and danishes and whatnot. But during that time of just eating really healthy salads and mostly vegetarian, it just started to clear everything out. Amazing. My skin was clear. I got really skinny. I felt great. I had lots of energy. It's fantastic.
And then what do we do to ourselves sometimes? I know. I think it's all cycles, though. It's natural. I think there's something beautiful in learning that as a woman, that our body is ever moving and ever changing, and nothing is fixed, and all different shapes and ways, and soft and hard, and it can feel amazing to be in, and to just trust that it does its natural kind of flow. Like we soften and we get wobblier, and that can be nice if we allow ourselves to enjoy it. I love to teach my clients to just feel their body from the inside. So to stand and let things wobble, and just feel that juiciness of the roundness of the body, and be that woman for a while, be that one. And then maybe summer comes and you just naturally start moving more and wanting to eat differently, and before you know it, your body is more lean and strong, and then you can enjoy that for a while. And then,
I think it's really important. I've at 46, I'm finally in that place where I can just really enjoy the wobbles and the different moments in time of where I expand and contract, and become thin and become a little bit more vivacious. Yeah, it's good, isn't it? That is part of embracing the feminine, isn't it?
Yeah, cycles. We're not linear. We've been brought up in this linear patriarchal, this masculine model of things, that things just like, you just like have this linear path rather than yeah. No, it's totally the feminine, and it's a huge piece that we as women carry, is the judgments about our body and what it should and shouldn't be like. Actually, recently I had a couple of injuries over lockdown. It's really silly things. I don't normally injure my body. I'd made this statement that I was going to be the strongest I've ever been when I get to 40. So of course I just got injured. Kind of hilarious how that happens. But I felt when I wanted to start to get a bit stronger, I was able to start using my body more. I had a couple of a knee injury and a shoulder injury. I noticed something that I'm not really familiar with, which was this story around I need to get slimmer. I need to do this to get slimmer. I don't like my belly. I need to do this to get slimmer. And it didn't take very long for me to realize it was the most unmotivating approach to health and wellness. I just found that I just didn't get motivated. And it wasn't that long in that I caught it, and I realized that actually I've never approached my body like that. Whenever I've started to do more movement, I've done rock climbing and used to do a lot of hot yoga, a lot of Ashtanga yoga every day, or running or something. I never did it to get fit or lose weight. I just started to do something, and then I loved doing it, and then the byproduct of that enjoyment of doing would be my body getting stronger and leaner. So instead I started to just think about what would I enjoy to do, what kind of new thing might I like to learn, or what would be a fun thing to start doing now that I'm stronger and now that my body is able and I don't have an injury. What would be a fun thing to do? And then and then the body just starts naturally coming back into a different shape again. So it was really interesting to watch, because I've always been very skinny my whole life, really, and now that I'm getting closer to 40, hormones start changing, and weight starts like softening more in other places that are not so familiar to me. So it was really, really interesting to have that experience and that reminder, and just to enjoy in my body. Like, I got caught up for a little bit, I think because I wasn't feeling very good, because I'd been so stagnant. So I can really see how it happens, how we start hating on our bodies as women, that connection between that mental kind of well-being, because I wasn't moving, so I wasn't feeling great. Really interesting.
It is. Yeah. I think as women, it's important for us to keep loving and embracing our body and where we are now. And that is definitely part of the honoring the feminine aspect of who we are. Yeah. Harder to do, though, isn't it? We can talk about it, but it is harder to really bring that in and honor it. And I think it is because that patriarchal energy has been such a prominent feature in our culture, with all the magazines, all the women are skinny, it's like,
we're bombarded with imagery of certain shapes and stories, and also just ads about weight loss and stuff like that. So we get it. It's very easy to get conditioned by our environment. So I think it's a constant process of peeling back, of conditioning, and working with the emotion, with the challenge that's coming up, and letting yourself see it for what it is. Like we have to be conscious, or we can get caught up in it, I think, very easily. Just such a shame, because all women have the most juicy, gorgeous bodies, really, regardless of the shape. Like, literally, and all they need to do is start to enjoy being in them, and they become deliciously magnetic just from the pleasure that they're having in their body. We're so caught up in outside ideas about what we need to do to be attractive or something, and it's literally have more orgasms and start enjoying your body and be like bees to honey around you, because it's just so wonderful to be around somebody who's enjoying themselves very much like that. Actually reminds me of a story in Clarissa Pinkola Estes' book, Woman Who Run with Wolves. Have you read that book?
I've read some of it. I haven't finished the whole book.
Yeah. There's a story in there that I was reading the other day about Butterfly Woman, and it was very much a story about this and about bodies, actually, and how all the tourists were waiting for this show, this butterfly woman turning up for this ritual, and everyone's waiting, like anticipating this butterfly woman turning up. And this woman comes out and she's got these wings on, and she's old. She's in her 60s or 70s or something, so she's older, and she's got a big scar that sort of wraps around her body from some kind of surgery. And the tourists are kind of like, what is going on? This is really weird. Why is everyone so excited? But everybody else is like, wow, that, because the energy of her, she's buzzing and humming around, and she, everyone is just drawn to her, and her gorgeousness and this energy she brings, and just this like reminder of what beauty really is, and what we can layer on top. It's something, anyway, it's worth reading. It's definitely worth reading, I'd say.
Yeah, wow. That reminds me, I just had this flashback to elementary school, and we were all coming into puberty. I think I must have been 12 or 13. And I remember there was this one female, I can't remember her name, but she was not the prettiest girl. She was not the skinniest girl. She wore really thick glasses. She was not pretty, but what she had was so much sensuality and sexuality, in her body. And at the time, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know or understand, because I was still so young, but you just reminded me of that. And the men, the boys at that point, they all just would flock to her, and they would chase her, and they'd try to kiss her, and they were all so drawn to her. And at the time, I didn't understand it. I was like, what does she have that I don't have, And I hadn't, my breasts hadn't started growing yet. So I wasn't there yet. I didn't have that energy in my body. Mm-hmm. But I thought that I was one of the pretty girls, but they were more drawn to her than they were me, because I didn't have that energy yet. And she just exuded it. So I haven't thought about that until just now. Wow.
Yeah. I love it. So what is attractiveness? And I know personally too, when I was young, all that attention was too much. So we get stories start running in our head that it's dangerous to be sexy and sensual, and that we should shut it down. But the beautiful thing is, now that we're an adult, when you do the work with your sexuality and you start to claim it for yourself and become empowered in it, I actually don't get sleazy attention now. I get respectful, beautiful attention and beautiful comments or compliments, but I don't get any of the sleazy, backed in a corner at a party kind of stuff that I remember getting in my, teens and in my 20s, the kind of stuff that I was scared of because I didn't know how to deal with the people that were giving me that kind of attention. So yeah, it's definitely time to claim all of these parts of ourselves and let us just be in our natural form, which is just being in our body. It's literally, that's it. It's just not cutting off parts of our body. It's just allowing embodiment, which has a natural flow. We look at, and other cultures have that more naturally and more of a playful banter around it. I remember being in Belize, and I just loved the way this banter between people on the street. So a guy would, give some kind of a cheeky comment or something to a woman, but she would just turn around and just give him this, cheeky banter back or whatever. But there wasn't any fear in it. No one was afraid. There wasn't any threat. It was just fun. It was just fun. Yeah.
I love that. I love that so much. I actually have a personal question around that. You know, there's so much female competition as well as part of the redemption of the feminine spirit for me, that when I have been in my power and in my sensuality and my sexuality, what can happen is I can make other women feel uncomfortable. And so, you know, for a long time, I would just shut that part down to help other women feel safe. And then I have a kind of a dissonance inside of me for shutting that part down. But I don't, as an empath, I don't want other women to feel threatened or feel unsafe. So it's always been a little bit of an interesting dance. And I just thought I'd bring that into the conversation because, you know, even at one point I went to this party and I wore this really nice dress, and my husband said to me, honey, maybe you shouldn't wear that dress. And I was like, why? I want to wear this dress. He's like, you're going to make the other women feel bad. I was like, oh no, they're not like that. It'll be fine. But he was quite right. I wore the dress, and the whole party I felt uncomfortable because I was making other women feel really, you know, bad. And so I have had to shut that part down. And I even at one point gained a lot of weight just so that I would not, you know, threaten other women, because I love women. The last thing I ever want to do is cause anyone else any pain. So it's always been this really awkward. I don't know if you relate to that.
Yeah, I know that it's definitely a thing, and it, you know, it happens to a lot of women that, and actually women, you know, sometimes can be way bitchier than men to each other, you know, and that's, you know, is a sad fact that can happen, and that other women can feel threatened by another woman who is embodied or in her power. And I suppose my strategy has always been to give a lot of attention to other women. So I'm very appreciative of the qualities of people around me. So when I am in an environment where there's couples, and I will always make a conscious effort to get to know, to friend, to give warmth to the woman. So I'm very aware of not getting in the way of other people's relationships or creating, like, being a threat, being like the threatening woman. And I notice that not all women do that. I know that some women seem to have no awareness of that kind of unspoken loving act that we can do to support our sisters in feeling safe. So I mean, that's just what I naturally do. And there's probably a part of me that, you know, is probably partly a little bit of a nervous system strategy to appease. You know, we have fight, flight, freeze, and appease. So maybe there's a little bit of my own uncomfortableness that comes out in that sometimes, like I'm trying to make other people feel better. But ultimately, by shining brightly is really the only way that we can lead the way, and to know with absolute love that we do all that we can to help other people feel at ease. But I definitely don't believe the way is to shut ourselves down and to be less than. In New Zealand, we have this saying called the tall poppy syndrome, and it basically means that we have a culture where if you're the tall poppy, the tall one, somebody's going to like chop your head off. So you shouldn't shine too brightly. You've got to all stay kind of the same, and then you'll be all right. If you try and get to, you know, believe in yourself too much and, you know, rave about your qualities or just be too confident, then somebody is going to need to cut you down a notch, because that's not welcome here, kind of thing. So it's a huge gift to be a change maker in that aspect, and to be able to go to a party wearing something that makes you feel amazing, and you've had a feel into the environment and who's going to be there, and imagine yourself there, and you know that it's going to help, you know, what you've chosen is appropriate in terms of how amazing you'll feel there, you know, because, you know, if I turned up to a glamorous party in some little hot pants or something, I'm not going to feel great, you know. You want to wear things that are going to be appropriate in that way, but not to, I think it's a really great practice not to shut ourselves down. In fact, I have a rule: if I hear the little story in my head that says, no, that will be too much, then I always do it. That's my rule. I might be about to put lipstick on and I hear the story, I know that's too much, you shouldn't wear lipstick just to go to the supermarket or something, you know. Okay, do it. Done. I know you shouldn't wear that today, that will be too much. You're going to a casual party, that will be too much. You shouldn't wear that glamorous outfit you feel like wearing. And then I always do it. So I'm like, that's my antidote.
You wear the glamorous dress and you wear the...
Oh, yeah. If that little too much voice comes in, it's like it means that my conditioning is trying to come in and sabotage me from being who I genuinely are when I'm feeling expansive and good and bringing my light. Yeah.
The dress I wore was very conservative, actually. And I wore pants under it, too. It was not hot. Yeah. It was just a white lace dress, you know, but it was in New Zealand. And, you know, and it was that tall poppy thing that definitely, I mean, I was living in rural farmland, New Zealand. And so, it was an interesting time. I learned all about the tall poppy syndrome of New Zealand. But I think that exists in the world as well, not just in New Zealand, but it is a thing. Yeah. I love that you wear the lipstick and put the fancy dress on. I love that.
Oh yeah, even just to go to town, I'm like, I love hanging out in nice clothing and things that make me feel good, you know, at home or wherever. So why tone myself down? You know, the reality is I'm more likely to give somebody a bit of light and inspiration going out like that than anything else. And those that find it too much, you know. So.
Yeah, that's where I'm at now. I've been really enjoying every interview. I wear a different outfit and put my makeup on and everything because, you know, like you, I feel like I've really stepped into my power now, and I just want to shine bright and be who I am and exude that feminine beauty and grace of what it is to be a woman.
Yeah. Beauty is of the highest vibration. It's not egotistical. It's not, there's nothing about it other than just purely letting ourselves shine and adorn ourselves in ways that please our senses and bring joy to those around. I mean, even in design, you know, when you're looking at an object, designing an object, you know, there's the consideration of, is it beautiful? Is it functional? What's the other one? Oh, will I use it or something? I don't know. Do I love it or something like that? I can't remember. But, you know, is it beauty? Is it beauty? Is it functional? And so, you know, that goes into the design of everything. So to think of ourselves in that same way, you know, that we get to also allow our beauty to come out. And I wasn't brought up like that. I was brought up in a community in New Zealand in the middle of nowhere, really totally off-grid, people wearing basic clothes to work in the garden or to, you know, whatever they were up to. And my mum didn't wear any makeup. And I'm still learning how to put makeup on. And I really wasn't brought up with an idea of beauty in terms of an everyday way that you might take care of your body. So it's been a real journey for me to allow myself to experience that and to know that it's not just my ego that is, you know, needing a soothe or something, but actually that it's a genuine part of who I am to enjoy beauty and to surround myself with beauty and to love helping other women step more into experiencing their beauty and seeing their own beauty. It's naturally part of who we are. It's not something outside of, or
it's like an act of self-love, isn't it? And I think into nature and the rose or all the different flowers, they don't shrink back and say, oh no, we must not bloom because we don't want other flowers to feel bad. No, they just bloom, don't they? And they're like, I am a rose. And I think we can learn a lot from nature in that way.
Yeah, and it's a respect thing of your body. It reminds me, as we're talking, of one of my teachers, and he said about, how we should dress every day with respect for the spirits and our ancestors and our, there's something about doing that. And it's interesting that for me, it naturally unfolded as I became more embodied. It was not something that I went and just decided I was going to start treating my body in a different way and wearing different things from the outside, as in looking at magazines and then, I need to wear makeup or need to do this. It was just something that seems to be naturally unfolding for me more and more in different ways as I drop more deeply into my body and my senses and become more embodied. So it seems to be a natural unfolding of the human, perhaps.
Oh, I love that. I love that it's not from the outside in, and that it's actually the embodiment that's within coming out, which is what a rose does. It's from the inside out when it blooms. So that's beautiful that you help guide women to embody that so it may bloom.
Yeah, it is beautiful to see. It is beautiful to see.
What a beautiful conversation about the goddess. I love it.
Yeah. Now I'm thinking more about my work. Strapline could be birthing goddesses, Another one of the pages, because it is one of the things that excites me the most.
Yeah.
And because it's this ultimate presence and beauty that starts to shine out, and there's just nothing quite like it. Yeah. And to then see that woman blossom like that, to feel so at home in her body, to be enjoying and to let go of all those stories and just be in the natural state of pleasure and joy and embodiment, and
beautiful.
As a thing to always come back to,
Yeah. I love that so much. And I mean, that's, in my personal experience, orgasm is, I've had the best orgasms when I am just being, and when I'm surrendering and I'm letting go and I'm in the flow. As soon as I try to force anything, it doesn't work. So.
No, I definitely joke about that. It's like, the pussy says no, she does not like performing for anyone. It's like she refuses to perform. And it's the ultimate challenge is to surrender, to get out of the mind space and into the body space, which is really the focus of what I teach people, is these keys, because there literally are keys that you can try in the door. And on that day, one or more of those keys will let you in so that you're completely in the body and the mind isn't thinking anymore. That kind of point between arousal being warm and then totality of like completely in that moment. It's just a practice. It's just wiring our brain and just having things that we can play with that bring us back. I don't know what it's like for you, but I have a very overactive mind a lot of the time. So it was a real challenge for me to drop into my body and have orgasms and Yeah, so it's a real practice for me to just keep playing and finding different things that help me to drop in, because I enjoy that feeling of total surrender so much. When you have a busy mind, getting to have, that point of completely in the moment erotically is just like, oh, so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of women can relate to that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I love that you have these keys to unlock the door to our inner chambers of sensuality and sexuality and surrender into an orgasmic state. Oh my goodness. What a great job.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love it. I give you a different key when you come in and teach you that next key to play with. Yeah. I think the most amazing thing about that really is also, I just didn't believe that anything particularly magical, for me, what was normal was really efforting for orgasms. So really a lot of effort, a lot of focus. And I had other friends that just seemed to be able to orgasm really easily. So I thought maybe there's something wrong with me. I'm clearly never going to be able to have that kind of pleasure. And then to discover that all it took was practice and diligent practice, a bit of discipline, and a bit of practice of some new things, that even my body was capable of having experiences that just literally changed my life. I was in a corporate job before and not doing this work whatsoever. It was that amazing that it led me completely down this new path, and wanting to share that with other women. And it's completely possible in anybody. That's the amazing thing of I suppose it's like that with any new transformation that you do. Before you have the experience, you never really believe you're going to get there. I guess it doesn't differ in that way, but maybe it's something about the sexuality for me, and I think for a lot of my clients, there's this I am a whole woman aspect. When you really claim your pleasure capacity, your ultimate divine orgasmic being, there's something very, very empowering about that, about knowing that you can tap into that.
Yeah, it is. And my next question was, how does that relate to the awakening, the spiritual awakening?
Well, I mean, sexuality is very much a path to spiritual awakening. In Tantra, you do a lot of meditation and practices, and Tantra as a full spiritual lineage, and the sexuality practices are seen as the fast route to enlightenment, because when you drop into your body with arousal is very powerful. There's literally nothing else like it on the planet. And to practice the art of being in the primal, sensing, moving, breathing, tasting, feeling body is very much seen as this fast route to enlightenment. And literally, personally, the experiences that I've had of, my heart completely opening to myself and suspended in bliss for half an hour, like, whoa. Wow, an orgasm, that kind of experience is an awakening experience. It's and it opens everything up. It's because you can move the energy up through your system, so you can clear a lot of blockages and open up your system very quickly with erotic energy. So as part of your path to awakening, it's an essential part that often it feels like it's the last place that people go to. They do yoga and they do meditation and they pray and they do all these things, and maybe they try to kind of connect up and out, but sensuality is like in and down, you know, that really that in and down, and that is huge part of a journey. Before going up and out, you really need to get fully in and down. You know, we're born into these bodies for a reason. We're embodied. We have a body with all of its capabilities. So I believe the path to awakening is through the body.
I believe that.
And that is the route to the divine. Yeah.
Well, they have a saying, don't they? You need to root down in order to rise. Yeah. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nina. That was so well articulated. I love it so much. That's a new way of saying rooting down to rise. I've always thought about grounding my energy, but it's like literally rooting down in order to rise and blossom. It's so beautiful. Yeah. Wow. What a beautiful, beautiful conversation about the goddess, about sensuality and sexuality. I knew I was going to enjoy this conversation. It's one of my favorite things to talk about.
Yeah, talking about sex. I mean, who doesn't actually enjoy talking about sex? One of the amazing things about it as well is that literally we can completely change our sexual desire just through talking about sex. One of the effects I notice when people come to my events, or they often send me messages saying for the last 2 weeks they've had the best sex that they've had for years, and we didn't do anything. we didn't do anything yet. They hadn't done any deep work. All we did is we had a conversation. It's it's amazingly powerful how you can just bring simple things into your life, like talking about sex, and completely have a way better sex life.
Yeah. Definitely. It opens things up, frees things up, frees up the energy, doesn't it?
Yeah. I'm wondering now, as people are listening to this and watching this, if they're already maybe noticing a little bit in their bodies as well, if they weren't going to shut it down, whether they were noticing, whether you were noticing, that you watching a little bit of a hum, a little bit of aliveness maybe in the pelvis, a little bit of something starting to stir somewhere in the body, that you might be inspired to not shut down and enjoy. As soon as you're taking the time to listen to this, you may as well.
Yeah, can you share a couple tips with everyone to help them access more sensuality and sexuality in their day-to-day lives?
It's practice and discipline around pleasure would be the main thing. I love is it metaphor or analogy? I always get them confused. Of a woman being water and men being fire. And if you're water, you think of a pot of water, it could be totally frozen, or it could be cold, or it could be warm, or it could be like steaming hot. And the more you cultivate your own pot of water, then the more available you are to delicious pleasure, because you think about how much energy it takes to take a pot of water from frozen all the way to boiling. So if you're feeling that your desire or your pleasure is limited in some way, being disciplined about it, being disciplined about making space for it, as you would meditation, as you would sleeping, as you would working out. And I think a lot of people expect that it will just come naturally, that it was this thing that will just be there, and you're just expecting it to be there, and if it's not, then there's something wrong. But when you look at it, you think about your muscles don't get strong if you don't go to the gym, and your sexual juices don't get flown if they don't get woken up regularly. And so cultivating a pleasure practice, a regular pleasure practice, at least once a week, more if possible, if you can create more space, then you're keeping your pot bubbling. And I also teach a lot of breaths and practices just to really practice bringing your energy down into your pelvis. So I think we're going to do a meditation to hand out maybe at the end, aren't we?
Yeah. So Nina and I talked about doing a meditation, Awakening Eros meditation. That's going to be in the All Access Pass. So anyone that signs up for the 9-day All Access Backstage Pass will get her lovely meditation that she's going to guide us through for awakening Eros. So that's very exciting. Thank you for offering that, Nina. I can already.
You're welcome. My pleasure. Yeah. I love the thought of all the ripples these sorts of conversations have, and any more women that we can awaken their juices and their sensuality, the better, you know, coming into the world fully in power and in divine feminine pleasure is so good. In fact, I actually think of it as our superpower. It's this untapped secret weapon even.
Yeah, it really is. And this is so needed. I'm so glad we're having this conversation. I remember when I was a little girl, I had so much sexual energy running through my body. And I didn't know about Kegels or anything like that. Is it Kegels or Kegels? I'm not sure what it's called, where you can feel the energy and you can pulse, you know, inside. And I discovered that I think I was about 12, you know, so I discovered that I could do that. And I discovered that I could move this energy, this sexual energy through my body. But I was also told that orgasm, and this was by the church, was wrong and bad and that you shouldn't do it. It didn't stop me, of course, because I had so much of it, you know, but what I had so much of it. And then I also had this layer of guilt that was put on it. And so there was shame around it. So I always made sure to be, you know, in secret but it really affected me long term. And I think a lot of women and men have this thing around the sexuality, sensuality, but a layer of shame as well. And so having these conversations just start to, I think, open it up and free it up because it's natural. Like it's natural. There's nothing shameful or bad or wrong about it. And in fact, I think it's really important to embrace and celebrate this beautiful energy within us. I mean, there's a reason why Goddess, the creator, gave us these areas that are like pleasure centers and why, you know, the creator made it feel good. It wasn't so that we could oppress it and shut it down. It's so that we could celebrate it and honor it and love it. And yeah, so yeah. So
yeah, that's a beautiful way to describe that. As you just said there, yeah, honor it and celebrate it, yeah. And when we're covered in delicious nerve endings and, you know, all these delicious pleasure places in the body, it's part of our natural nature. Yeah. And shame is a huge part. And one of my clients at the moment, she has just overcome a really big piece of that, you know, isn't her shame, it's her mother's shame, because her mother really shamed her when she discovered one time when her mother wasn't supposed to be home and her boyfriend were having sex, and her mother didn't just go and leave them to it, kind of made a lot of noise and, you know, really made a big hoo-ha about catching them. And there was a lot of uncomfortableness around that. And so, yeah, we've really been unwinding all of that. So, you know, it's not her shame because she knew that it felt good and right and that she was safe and she was with, you know, somebody who she wanted to be with and in that moment. And And can you hear that outside? It's my dog. Yeah, this is Zoom. The world is Zoom. He's like, yeah, no more of that shame business. Yeah, get rid of it. Just be your wild nature.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And one of the biggest pieces that I would like to share about shame, which has been a really big aha for me and my journey too, is that shame is a relational piece. So it's in relation to others. We feel ashamed when we are uncertain if what we're doing in this community or is okay. So it's really important that we have shame, because it's how we learn what isn't okay in different environments and different communities. So we don't want to get rid of shame entirely, because it serves this really important function. But it's only when shame gets glued to the wrong thing, to the wrong situation. And because it's a relational piece, one of the fastest ways to dissolve shame is to speak it in that moment, because it will be happening with somebody right then and there. You might have shame arising. Once you start to get a sense of how shame shows up for you, shame normally wants us to hide and pull away from and disconnect from others. So you might start to get a sense of what happens for you when shame is showing up. And then when it does, if you can be brave enough to even just speak the words, shame is showing up for me right now, you would be amazed at how it can completely disappear, and you can have the most ultimate delicious surrender. And if you try to just carry on regardless, it's there, it's kind of in the background, and it will be holding you back. So yeah, it's really amazing how the simple act of speaking it out loud and just having somebody go, okay, they don't have to do anything. It's just letting you know that, they're still here. They're not going anywhere.
I love that.
Yeah.
So much. What you resist persists, and when you surrender, it frees it up. I love that your dog started barking at that moment. That was just so perfect, wasn't it? It's like, yep, this is real. This is authentic. We're in Zoom. We're in the moment.
Yep. And it's such a great reminder. Just let it out. Yeah.
Be what it is. Don't try to control it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. I've so enjoyed this, and looking forward to this Awakening Eros meditation. Is there any last and final words that you want to leave everyone with?
What I feel is coming through is this reminder of how amazing and powerful and beautiful and worthy you are, each of you watching this, and how it's the most divine gift to everyone around you. If you can even start to believe that just like a teeny bit, and embrace the pleasure in your body, to fully embrace it, to make it a priority, to make it important, to make it something of value, and it's sacred.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah.
And then just see how it changes your life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now go off and have a lot of fun and have a lot of sex now. If you're feeling it, make the time. Go off, get out your favorite toy or whatever you're going to do, and get in there and have a good time and just enjoy being in your body. God, what a gift to be in a body.
Yeah, definitely. Those are some good last and final words. Like, get out there, have some fun, or get in there, have some fun. Enjoy that beautiful body, because time goes by fast. Before we know it, we'll be in our 90s. I personally, in my 90s, I'm still going to be having some good sex, though. I've made a decision. I'm going to do the exercises and the techniques and keep stirring up that cauldron. And I think you're going to do the same thing. We're going to be juicy, vibrant, sexual, sensual elders. Yeah, really important. It keeps everything lubricated.
Well, yeah. I want to be the most juicy, quirky old person, honestly. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. Love it. Thank you so much. I've so enjoyed this.